Good morning, evening, or night, everyone. I am Jext, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at Splatoon 2's rank system. We're going to see the problems with it, why it sucks, how we can fix it, and what issues may arise when we try to fix it. Now, first up is a relatively simple reason why Splatoon 2's rank system sucks, and that is disconnect penalties. I'm going to show you a picture that's on the left of the screen right now, and then another picture on the right of the screen. Both of them were taken in the same game. I want you to tell me what's the difference between the two. You have 5 seconds. You can either scream it out at your screen or write it down in the comments. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, now that we've got our Dora the Explorer moment out of the way, what is the answer? Well, you might have said it's the ink around you is different, or your character's slightly moved, or the time. And ding, 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 the time is correct. If a teammate disconnected at the exact moment that the picture on the left was taken, I would lose 0 points if I lost that match. If a teammate disconnected at the exact moment that the picture on the right was taken, I could lose points. Now, I could lose 1 point, or 2, or 3. I could lose 10, or 15, or 25, or 50, or 60, or 100. That's stupid. The fact that 1 second of difference determines if I lose points or don't is dumb. But also, why am I penalized for my teammates' poor connection? It's not my fault that their internet went out or just couldn't connect. But I'm also, not a god at this game. I can't consistently win intense 3v4s, especially in X rank in the upper echelons of Splatoon's godly, skilled ranked mode. Now, how can we fix that? Well, it's relatively simple. Remove that penalty for teammates of a person that disconnects. You want to keep it in place for the person who disconnects, so there's still some sort of punishment for disconnecting. Now, there is already a punishment for disconnecting. You do get banned after a little bit for like 5 minutes, and then 10, and then 30, and then 60, but also a loss of points. Make sure that the person who disconnected, there's some incentive there that they should try to improve their connection or just not play at that current moment. Because some people live in places where their router or something else experiences high traffic and they're gonna lag. But other times it could be completely fine. Well, in moments like that, the penalty incentivizes them to not play when there's high traffic. Now, that's the simplest problem that Ranked has. Removing the penalty is relatively easy. It eliminates an unfair punishment for players who didn't do anything wrong, regardless of where you are in a match, whether you're a minute in, 4 minutes in, 4 minutes and 30 seconds in, regardless, you shouldn't lose points if your teammate DCs. That's just dumb. Now, the second reason why Splatoon's ranked system sucks is map rotations. Now, currently, Splatoon 2 rotates one mode with 2 maps every 2 hours. Every mode is playable sometime throughout the day, but it's not guaranteed at any specific time. It doesn't go in order either, like Splat Zones, Tower Control, Rainmaker, Clan Blitz, Splat Zones, Tower Control, Rainmaker, Clan Blitz. It jumps around. There'll never be the same mode twice in a row, but that doesn't prevent it from sandwiching, meaning that it could be Splat Zones, and then Tower Control, and then back to Splat Zones again. It could not be. There is never a guarantee that whatever mode you want to play is going to be available at a certain time. That's dumb too. Before I get into my fix for this, I'll touch first on why I chose to stick with the rotation-based mapping modes. Splatoon can easily implement a map selection or a voting system like Mario Kart or Call of Duty does, where the most popular choice among the lobby is just automatically chosen, or everybody picks their favorite and it just cycles through randomly and selects one. This does work for those games, but I feel like it has some flaws and some exploits that could be, very impactful for a game like Splatoon. First of all, players could easily band together. If you get 4 of your homies in the same lobby and you just choose the same map and mode over and over and over again, the other 3 people in the lobby are just subject to your will. That's kind of stupid and kind of unfair. It's fun for the 5 of you, but if 3 other randos don't want to play playing Blitz Schellendorf 15 times in a row, then why should they? Now, it could also allow people to just disconnect if they didn't like a map or a mode. The penalty for disconnecting is not as heavy when you're just waiting for a match than when you're actually in a match. Obviously, you can get banned for a little bit amount of time, but if I booted up the game and, I saw, oh, they all selected, Rainmaker on the Reef. I hate that map and mode. I don't want to play that. I could just, exit out of the game and go back in again. I feel like that's kind of stupid. You could have people just essentially escaping, and then the people in the lobby still have to wait for another person to be found. That's kind of dumb. Also, it would allow players to just never play what they don't want to play, which for some people is like, yeah, that's fine. If I don't want to play it, I just won't play it. But in my opinion, that sort of hurts the game's overall health. The more scenarios a player is exposed to, the more diverse gameplay and experience they're gonna have, which means probably the more fun they're gonna have. And the more people having fun, the better. Duh. Letting people just play whatever they want and sometimes never playing something means that the work that went into creating that specific map or mode kind of just goes to waste, and that's kind of dumb. And in a competitive sense, it also takes some practice away from people. If I want to play certain maps and modes, but I don't have, my team to scrim with, or I don't have people to league with, or, do a PB, then, I could join a ranked match and just, choose whatever. But if people don't choose what I want to play, then I'm kind of out of luck at that point. Now, I do get that having only one mode available at a time does incentivize people to just play whatever is available. And that if you had all four at the same time, that people would just play whatever mode they wanted. Some people do only play Splat Zones or Tower Control, and if all four modes were available, they would just only play those two modes. A small aside to that, extra rank powers have only gotten up to maximum around 3100. Now, if you could play a map and a mode all day, every day, the scores could get much higher, meaning there'd be more competition for higher scores, it would be more fun to go for higher scores, and you wouldn't have to wait for a rotation to come around to try to get a higher score. That's sort of a niche thing, but I thought it was worth mentioning. So how do you fix this? Well, you rotate the maps like the game usually does. Every 2 hours you rotate maps, but you implement all four modes instead of just one. So you have all four modes all the time. The only thing that changes is the maps that you play on. That's pretty much it. But you could be saying, well, what if people still only play what they like to play? What if you really like Splat Zones and you just choose Splat Zones? What if a bunch of people only choose Splat Zones or Tower Control, but I want to play Clan Blitz and there's just nobody who's playing Clan Blitz? Well, that is a pretty relevant critique of this, but there is a way you could combat that. You could choose maps that are popular, that have seen increased play rates in the past that people enjoy playing on. Obviously, if there are bad maps for Splat Zones but good for Clan Blitz, then maybe people will say, I don't really want to play in these Zones maps, but those Clans maps are pretty good, so I'll play on those. Also, you could give players an incentive to play every single mode. You might be saying, what could you incentivize people to play all the modes other than just, I want to get my placement matches done? Well, you could give them a reward for doing that. Like how Salmon Run gave an exclusive piece of gear every month if you played enough. Do that for ranked. If you do all your placement matches, or just maybe 3 or 5 of them, you get a unique piece of gear for that month. That would be pretty cool. It gives everybody a reason to just play every mode every month just a little bit. It also means there's a guaranteed amount of time, probably at the beginning or the end of the month, where a bunch of people are going to be playing every single mode. I feel like that's a pretty good scenario, and also it allows people to play whatever they want, whenever they want, which is, in and of itself, a good thing. And also, this would help the developers see head-to-head what modes and maps are more popular than others, and then they could ask a pretty logical question, why are they more popular? They could look at that information and look at what makes certain maps and modes more popular and allow them to change other maps and modes so they could be more likable and more popular and increase player satisfaction on those maps and modes. If someone really likes the Reef because it's smaller and it's faster, and they don't like a bigger map like Moray because it takes longer to get into mid and it's just bigger and more cumbersome, then the developers might say, okay, we need to make smaller, more fast-paced maps. And that could be a good thing for the game. It could not. But having that data available to be like, okay, this map is more popular than another, what's working here and what's not, is a good thing. So basically, adding in all ranked modes would allow players to play what they want while giving the developers important stats on what works and what doesn't. And if certain modes don't get playtime, a reward or an incentive, like I mentioned, could be introduced to boost the amount of people playing in certain modes. Now, the third reason that Splatoon's rank system sucks goes kind of along with the second one, and that's the fact that there are only 2 maps per rotation. 2 maps gets pretty stale pretty quick. It also restricts weapon choices a good bit. If you play on maps that favor one weapon or another, then you're probably going to see the same thing every time, and you'll probably just be like, I'm kind of bored of this, I will stop playing. And if people stop playing, the game starts to die. And if the game starts to die, it'll inevitably be fully dead. And I don't think any of us want Splatoon to be fully dead. So I would say, a pretty good and easy fix to this is just bumping the amount of maps up. I would say just bumping them up 1 is actually pretty perfect. I think 3 maps would be a relatively good rotation. It gives a nice balance, it gives players a better chance to experience more variety and more diversity in maps, modes, and gameplay per rotation, and it's kind of just more fun. Now, this could result in the same map pools every single month, or maps being completely dropped out of their respective pool, but that's also on the developers to choose and improve what doesn't work or isn't liked by players, like I mentioned before. If they boost it up to 3 maps, and they see that people don't play on certain maps, that just gives them more data to help them compare what works and what doesn't, and then go about improving what doesn't work to make sure that it does. Now, the number 4 reason that Splatoon 2's rank system sucked is because it doesn't have an unranked mode. Now, have you ever wanted to test a weapon or a build, but you didn't want to risk losing a ton of points if you lost? Or do you want to play a ranked mode, but you don't want to lose points, or you might rank down, you're right on the cusp? Or maybe you can't get a friend a league or somebody to do a PB or just get a scrim in general? Then an unranked mode would work for you. A less stressful environment for players to test stuff, mess around, or just play without having to worry about losing 5,000 points in a match. And the more quality options available to players, the more popular and better a game will be. Sure, an unranked mode might not be insanely popular, but having that option is better than not having it, in my opinion. Now, this would also allow players to play stress-free, but there is the question of matchmaking. Do you just make it the same as ranked, where in unranked, if C ranks versus C ranks and X versus X, or do you pair everyone together? Well, naturally, unranked means just that, no ranking. So everyone against everyone, a mixed bag of skill levels where every match is different. And if we're being honest, regular ranked is basically this anyway, but whatever. It would be a fun thing for content creators, streamers, casuals, and competitive players alike to just goof and play around. You could squid party or squid bag, do whatever you want. There's no penalty. You're not ruining someone's rank. You're not breaking their streak in turf. You're not going to de-rank them. You can just have fun with little to no care at all. An unranked mode allows for a stress-free environment where anyone can do whatever they want at any time. Now, the 5th and final reason that Splatoon 2's rank system sucks is, of course, the matchmaking. This is what the majority of people will complain about, whether it be having 2 chargers on your team, or you're playing against 4 people with armor, or 4 people with missiles, or some other wacky combination, or if you're 2700 XP and you're in a 2000 XP lobby. Splatoon 2's matchmaking is just flat out not good. Unbalanced compositions and mismatched X-rank powers result in lopsided games, which kind of devalue the feeling of win and kind of make the game feel unfair when you lose. People tend to not enjoy unfairness in their games, so this is a big issue for the health of the game and overall player satisfaction. So how do you fix matchmaking? Well, there's really no perfect answer. You could implement a system in which the weapon and X rank of people are visible in a lobby, and you can just choose to stay or leave. So if the lobby has a bunch of chargers and you realize each team is going to get 2 of them, I don't really want to play this, you could exit out. But that could lengthen the wait times, as people could just choose not to play any game that they feel is lopsided because they don't want to lose points. Or the inverse, if they're a really low rank and they feel like, I just play a bunch of lopsided games, I could gain a bunch, that's kind of unfair too. Overall, a system like that, where you could choose to stay or leave depending on what you feel, is kind of only really balanced for people who use common and versatile weapons and also have sort of average X rank powers. They don't have a lot to lose, and they don't really have a lot to gain. That's not super balanced, and it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's a no-go. What about matching people up based on their X rank or their weapon choice? Well, that's kind of already done, and it allows for more balanced games and it gets rid of wacky comps, but what if the only people available don't have the right power or the right weapon to create a balanced lobby? Do you just get left waiting indefinitely for some magical person to show up to create the perfect lobby, or do you get put into an unbalanced game? Well, that's kind of what the situation is right now. And when you throw in stuff like connection speed or latency or what country you're playing in, it just becomes a mess. Which one is priority? Your connection, your rank, what weapon you're using? The current system tries to balance all of that and more, but it fails more often than not. But if you think about it from a developer's perspective, it kind of makes sense. Which would you rather have? Players get into games quickly and might play unbalanced stuff, or they wait for a really long time for a perfect game that may never come. As a game developer, you want people playing your game regardless. So of course they're going to choose the former. People play even if it's unbalanced. The lopsided comps, the power differences, they're just symptoms of the problem of balancing all the variables of matchmaking. So what's the fix? Well, there's a small one that could help. I think splitting X rank into multiple ranks would help at least a little bit. You would be able to shrink the skill gap of each respective rank and allow for easier matchmaking. Let's say instead of X rank being about, 1800 at the lowest to upwards of 3000 at the highest, maybe you split it in half so that around, you have X minus or something at 1800 to 2400, and then you have X plus at 2500 plus. That way the gap between the two wouldn't be as big, and the lobbies within them would be relatively more balanced. In terms of weapon comps, however, I don't really have a fix for that. You can try and implement something that would match, 2 short range, 1 mid range, and 1 long range weapon with 2 short range, 1 mid, and 1 long on the other team, but if that was every single match, it would kind of be really boring, and there are some weapons that don't really fit categories like that. The lopsided comps in rank mode are kind of part of what make rank fun and interesting too. As I said earlier, trying to match comps perfectly could also result in really long wait times. If you had it implemented that you need 1 long range, 1 mid range, and 2 short range to start a match on either team, and both teams don't have that, well, then what? Are you just stuck waiting for someone to come that may not? That's kind of stupid. Some people would prefer that. I can wait if I get a balanced game. Some people might not. They say, I don't want to wait that much. I don't care if it's unbalanced. Now, that's just preference. What could developers do about that? Well, you could split ranked into 2 different categories. One that guarantees a quick queue time and a quick lobby, but the game could be unbalanced. And then on the flip side, you could have a category that guarantees a more balanced game, but could have really long wait times and really long queues. In the end, that's sort of the developer's choice to implement, and it may be more work than it's actually useful for. Overall, though, I think splitting X rank up into 2 or more categories is definitely the logical move here. Maybe playing with the influence of weapon choice and power and what they have on the lobby is something the devs could experiment with, especially with Splatoon 3 incoming, but no clear-cut solution is really apparent for that. And that about wraps it up. If you have any other suggestions on why rank sucks or gripes with what I've said in this video, let me know down in the comments. And make sure to follow me on Twitter @Jext4 for updates on videos and other shenanigans. I'm trying to be a little bit more frequent with uploads, so please look forward to another video relatively soon. And if you enjoyed, please obliterate that like button and demolish subscribe. That's all. Have a good one.